Hey everybody, it's Chuck Burr with another TAPS video series. The focus this week is on technology. I want to use technology to make good management decisions for irrigation and nitrogen management. So you can see behind me our corn's tasseling. Also our grain sorghum is in the head initiation phase. Critical growth stages for reproduction. We definitely do not want to stress our crop at this point in the season, otherwise we could potentially really decrease yields. So want to do what we can to focus on that. We're going to take a look at irrigation management and nitrogen, and especially for irrigation management, I want to use more than one source of information to make my decisions. So today we're going to take a look at using soil moisture probes, calculating crop water use based on weather station data, and also using imagery to help us determine if there's any hot spots out in the field. The other thing I really want to watch for is I'm trying to cut my production costs as much as I can. With low crop prices, I want to be as profitable as possible. So that means reducing inputs, but not at the risk of reducing yields. Hey everybody, I'm back inside now, ready to take a look at some of the technology that we have provided for our TAPS participants. The first thing I'm going to take a look at it, what was the crop water used for the previous week? We've got the DTN weather station here, and I've clicked on the historical weather data. So we're going to look at the last 7 days. So that would be the 15th through the 21st. And if you add up the ET here in the column, right-hand column, you get 1.71 inches of water. Now that would be a reference ET. We need to multiply that by a crop coefficient. For irrigated corn at this point in time, it's 1.1. So actually our water use for the previous week was 1.9 inches. So if we look at our rainfall amount, looks like we had a 1/4 inch on the 15th. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to balance how much rainfall and irrigation we applied with crop water used for the previous week. So last week we received a 1/4 inch of rainfall. So if I want to balance my irrigation and rainfall with my crop water use, I'd take my inch 90 minus 25 hundredths. That would give me an inch 65 is how much irrigation water I should have applied to basically keep balance with ET. So what that will do is keep your soil moisture levels about the same from the beginning of the week to the end of the week. And we're in that real critical growth stage right now. We definitely do not want to get too low on our soil moisture sensor. We want to keep it kind of in that middle third range. Again, don't want to stress it during this growth stage, but we also want to save some room in the profile for irrigation and then also rainfall. We've had some decent chances of rain this week. Hopefully we'll catch rain and have room to store that. Next, we're going to take a look at our soil moisture sensors. So we've got several different types of sensors the participants have been allowed to select. We've got Syntech, Aquaspy, CropMetrics, Trellis, and also Phytech. So this just happens to be the Syntech probe. This is our UNL Educator sorghum plot that I'm taking a look at here, willing to share that with you. I want to focus more on the bottom part of this graph. If you look at the blue area, that would be considered field capacity. So the soil physically cannot hold any additional water if you would have applied irrigation or if we would have received rain. And I'm pretty confident that that is field capacity because when we installed these probes in early June, we had received quite a bit of rain in May and early June. So and the grain sorghum hadn't used much water yet. So I'm pretty confident that the blue line there would be considered field capacity. Now down at the bottom, I've selected a refill point, and that's based on the soil type we have and the water holding capacity for the top 3 feet of soil. So basically what I want to do is manage my soil water profile to be below the blue, but not get below the refill point, which would cause me some additional stress. Looks like we're doing a pretty good job here. You see as we get towards the 21st, we're down below half, down in that kind of middle third of soil water storage, and that's where I'd like to stay at least for the next month or so, again during that reproductive and early grain fill time period. So we're going to try to balance our ET with irrigation and rainfall we received and try to maintain that soil water level for the next month. Now later in the growing season, I'd like to really get down to this refill point, maybe even below a little bit, and I'd like to time that so we get down to that point about black layer of the maturity on the crop. We want to deplete the soil profile as much as we can late in the season because typically we get enough off-season precipitation, we're going to refill that 3 to 4 inches of water that we depleted out of the profile. So late in the growing season, crop water use tends to be fairly low. The crop's just not using a lot of water. We tend to have cooler temperatures and higher humidities, so we're not using a lot of water. So we can actually pull water from a deeper depth. We'll go down to 4 feet and down to about 60% depletion or 40% remaining when we go to dry the profile down at the end of the season. So that's where I'd like to manage this profile here. The other thing I want to point out on the top part of this graph, these are the different sensors as we move down through the soil profile. And you can see they increase when we either get an irrigation or rainfall, and then they decrease as we have crop water use. And you can see we've been using water down pretty much to 9 inches, or to the 9th sensor, which would be about 34 inches deep. So we've been pulling water from almost 3 feet already. Not a lot, but you can see the roots are down there. They all are pulling water. And then the rainfall and irrigations that we have, those have affected the top 3 sensors. You see they spike up on the top 2, and the third one, kind of a gradual increase there. That's where I know that any rainfall or irrigation we get has been stored in the soil profile. You don't see that on the 4th sensor here. The 4th sensor would be down about 14 inches. So the top foot is where we're managing that rainfall. We're able to store the rainfall and irrigations that we have applied to date. So doing a pretty good job managing that soil water. Now, the other thing I like to do, in addition to watching my ET and soil water, soil moisture levels, I also like to look at imagery products, whether that be from a drone or from an airplane or a satellite, just looking for different areas of the field that might be hot spots, if you will. I just happen to have a Cirrus image here for the subsurface drip irrigation plot. You notice we have one red area here in the upper right-hand corner of the plots here. That incidentally was sprayed accidentally, so we killed off part of the corn there, just an accident that happened, so we'll eliminate that plot from the yield competition. But just to show you that these products allow you to find these hot spots in the field. So from a soil standpoint, for soil water stress, that could be different soil types, could be compaction in part of the field, could be a hillside where, you know, you tend to get rains that run off more than they soak in this time of the year. So on the hillside, you may not store as much soil water. Could be an eroded hillside that has a lower water holding capacity as well. So just looking for those hot spots. Other possibilities could be insect or disease that's moving into the field. And this imagery really doesn't tell you what it is. It just tells you there's a difference out there. So you really need to go out in the field. This will help direct your scouting, go to that portion of the field, take a look and see what's really going on there. So I like to ground truth my ET calculations and also my soil moisture sensors, because if this area is not where your soil moisture sensor is, it could be acting quite differently than where you place your particular sensor. So that's why I like the imagery products, just to kind of keep an eye on the whole field, on the health of the whole field, see how things are going, and again, direct my scouting. The other thing that's kind of interesting, some of these products have the imagery analysis that goes with them. Again, a Cirrus image here. You can see average chlorophyll index per team. This would be for the sprinkler corn competition. You notice farm 06 is very low chlorophyll rating compared to the rest of the field, rest of the participants. That actually is our UNL control plot, so it received no water and no nitrogen this year. So you would expect to have some stress out there, water and nitrogen stress, and a lower chlorophyll levels. It's kind of interesting. We have several participants down here kind of in the lower area below average. It'll be interesting to see if having lower chlorophyll levels will impact their yield at the end of the season. The other thing we might take a look at is leaf tissue samples. We've just submitted some samples to Ward Labs for each rep of each individual plot. We pulled 25 leads from each rep, each plot, and looking for leaf nitrogen. That information will be available on our participants' website here in the next week or so, and they can use that for that last fertigation option. You know, do they really need to apply that last 30 pounds of nitrogen, or are they in good shape going forward in terms of how much nitrogen's in the plant? So another way to use this imagery products to be able to dictate or indicate when we might need some more nitrogen. The other thing that I wanted to share with you today is a lot of this information is available not only to our participants, to the general public as well. So if you'll go to our taps.unl.edu website and then come down and click on the Reports Data tab, First of all, you'll see the last 3 reports are banquet reports, which shows what participants have done the last 3 years in all of our competitions and how those decisions have really impacted their profitability and efficiency in terms of production. So interesting to take a look at those and see what decisions paid off last year or the last several years. The other thing is we've got all these different data sources available: Centera, Air Scout, Farmer's Edge, TerraAvion, Climate Field View, Cirrus, and DTN. And login information is there, the username and password. So feel free to go to these websites, look at what information's available, play around with it, get comfortable with it, and kind of determine if this is something you can use on your operation to help you to be more efficient. Again, using the technology that we have available to help you be more efficient in terms of water and nitrogen, but ultimately more profitable. So I'd like to thank you for your time today, and this has been another edition of our TAPS video series.